And welcome into The Big Hit. It's the only sports talk show that really matters right here on IUP-TV, the basketball extravaganza. Time for part one, starting with the professionals in the NBA. Joining me for that, it's his Big Hit debut as Kelsey Howe joins the show. And in the middle, it's the veteran man himself, Freddie Mitchell. And guys, let's just get right into it here, this basketball extravaganza. The All-Star Weekend is coming from New Orleans. So I want to ask you right now, which player on each team has the most to prove in the All-Star game?
I believe Paul George has the most to prove in the All-Star game. And the reason why I believe that is because the Indiana Pacers right now are the best team in the East. And Paul George and the Indiana Pacers as a unit are trying to overtake the Heat. And it's coming off his most improved player awards, and in his second All-Star game, he has a chance to win the All-Star MVP and lead his team to the playoffs. So Paul George can use this game as a stepping stone to taking over the second half of the NBA.
I agree. I like Paul George. I think two players you should watch for this weekend coming up. Two players making their debuts in the All-Star festivities this week. Steph Curry and John Wall. I think both those players, both in the first All-Star game, you could see, be coming up. I think they're both looking to make an impact in this game and just show all the veterans out there and all the previous All-Stars, that they're ready to make their stamp on the association and prove to them that they're going to be stars throughout their entire career in the league.
Absolutely. And another element to the All-Star game, of course, is the Rising Stars Challenge, the rookies and sophomores getting together. Which player in the Rising Star Challenge do you think will be the brightest star, so to speak, in the NBA?
I think the Rising Star Challenge, it will be Anthony Davis, because right now he's having one of the most prolific big man seasons of all time, and he's only 20 years old. So he's going into the NBA, he has 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks. There hasn't been a player to average that in almost 10 years, and the last player to do it under the age of 21 it was Shaq. So to be 20 years old, second year in the league, and being able to average those type of stats, I think he can actually take over the league as a big man and be one of the best big men in the league, as well as with DeMarcus Cousins.
Yes, I like that pick as well. There's a bunch of players out right now that are going to be in this Rising Stars Challenge they're all going to have great futures. Player that I'm going to be watching this week is going to be Michael Carter-Williams from the 76ers. I like his game style, I like how he's been playing in the first half of his rookie year. He has 264 assists this season, along with 700 points so far, and that's only halfway through the season. That's really good for a guard who's just coming into the league as a rookie. I think Carter-Williams definitely has potential to be one of the best guards upcoming now with the past 2 draft classes.
Yeah, and Kelsey, going off of your point, Anthony Davis with a perfect stage to shine on it, his hometown team in New Orleans. But of course, with the All-Star game, you have the skills competition, and this year's three-point shootout is got some good names: Aaron Aflalo, Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, Joe Johnson, Marco Bellinelli, Steph Curry, Damian Lillard, Kevin Love, some very prolific three-point shooters there. Who is your favorite to win this year's three-point shootout?
I think my favorite to win the three-point shootout is Steph Curry. And the reason I believe that is because right now he's coming in the season's hot. I think he's averaging 23 points a game, 9 assists a game, almost 3.5 threes a game. And he's a streaky shooter. Especially after the first 2 rounds, he's going to continue to get hot while others probably will fall off, especially after the long season, your arms getting tired. Another sleeper in the three-point contest is Kevin Love. Kevin Love, who won it a year ago, is a very good competitor. He can take over the three-point contest if he gets hot enough.
Yeah, I agree. I have Steph Curry winning the three-point competition. He's shooting 41% from deep behind the arc. He has 167 threes this season, which is leading the NBA. I like Kevin Love as a sleeper, very good sleeper pick. Also, I think Kyrie Irving is another sleeper pick. But I mean, this is a shootout competition. Any of these guys can go out there, and whoever gets hot by just standing there and putting them up is good. It comes down to who gets hot, but I think Steph Curry definitely has the best chance.
Yeah, and another element to the All-Star game, of course, is my personal favorite, the dunk contest. And this year, there's quite an interesting cast of characters as Paul George, Terrence Ross, John Wall, Harrison Barnes, Damian Lillard, and Ben McLemore will take part in the dunk contest this year. Who is your favorite to win the slam dunk contest this year?
Well, I actually had a difficult time picking this because I was rooting for Terrence Ross because I think he's the best dunker out of the group. But since it's a popularity contest at the end of the day, I think it will come down between Paul George and John Wall, and I think Paul George will get it just because I believe he's probably most athletic of the players in the group, and I think he's the best player out of all of them. So I believe the fans at the end of the day will vote for him, but I'm rooting for Terrence Ross because I do believe he's the best dunker out of everyone in that group.
Yeah, I agree. I have Paul George winning the dunk contest. Personally, I think he's the most athletic person that is coming up. He's got 24 dunks on this season, and I think most of his dunks that you see, in game and even just whatever, just messing around after practice, are just the most athletic dunks out of all those players that are going to be in the dunk contest. I can't wait to watch dunk contest. I personally think Paul George is going to pull one up on Blake Griffin and do something crazy. Maybe not jump over a Kia automobile, but maybe something similar, something better.
Yeah, always a few surprises in store for all of us for the dunk contest. But the All-Star break can obviously hurt teams, but it can also help teams a lot. Which team has the most to gain from this year's All-Star break?
I believe the team that most to gain is the San Antonio Spurs, and the reason is because they're dealing with a ton of injuries between Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, who's been hurt, Tim Duncan, who's coming off rest every other game. You have Kawhi Leonard, who broke his finger, Thiago Splitter, who just got back, but he was just recently hurt, and he has injury problems. And since they're an older team and more system-based, I think this weekend is a good time to get their players healthy and get them ready for the playoff run.
Yeah, great team to get some rest and relaxation in the middle of the season. Personally, I have both teams in LA, the Clippers and the Lakers, that will benefit greatly from this. Both teams have key injuries, on their rosters right now. The Clippers will be able to look forward to Chris Paul coming back. Fans will be happy to see him come back. Paul from the Lakers, Paul Gasol. They just said that his MRI is just a strained groin. So that this weekend, no basketball for him. He'll be able to, recoup and get re-energized and come back healthy, hopefully, for the second season.
Yeah, the second half of the season is the time where these teams try to make their run to the playoffs or try to get into playoff form. And there's certainly plenty of trade rumors being floated around. Which contending team has to make a trade to improve their stock before the deadline?
The team that I believe that actually has a good chance of making a trade, I think it's the Suns. And the reason the Suns have picked up a ton of picks from all the trades they made, the Luis Scola trade, and they moved a lot of other players around to get a lot of draft picks. But earlier in the season, there were interest in the Pau Gasol trade. And I'm a Lakers fan. I believe the Suns should make that trade when Pau gets healthy because they need a low post scorer. They have a lot of perimeter shooting. And when Eric Bledsoe will get back, with Powell and with all the extra picks they have, they can actually make a good run to the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that trade. I just can't see LA getting rid of Paul, though.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard for them to get rid of Paul Gasol. That's one of their key players down low. It could happen, but if that does happen, you might as well just call it a scratch for LA for a little while.
Well, right now they're in a rebuilding state because they're one of the worst teams in the league. I think they are tied with the most losses. Kobe's been hurt. Nash has been hurt. Powell's been hurt. Everybody, Nick Young is hurt. Steve Blake has been hurt. Jillian Meeks is hurt right now. Xavier Henry is hurt right now. So right now they have a slew of injuries, and I'm looking to build to the future. So I'm hoping that they are able to get. They're probably looking to get a top 5 pick and then move from there. So moving Powell contract, moving all the other players' contract would be better for their franchise.
Yeah, every team has kind of their layout for the second half of the season. It will be interesting to see how these teams do it. Very interesting to talk about the All-Star game this weekend from New Orleans. Should be a lot of fun. Kelsey Howell making his big hit debut and Freddie Mitchell. Coming up next, we continue crashing the boards as William Gaucher and Kyle Condor join us right here on the set. Stay tuned. Hi, everybody, and welcome back into the Big Hits Basketball Extravaganza. It's time for part 2. We just crashed the boards in the NBA. Now it's time to crash the boards here at the college level, Division I college basketball to be precise. And joining me for that, it's a good cast of characters. On the far left, he liked it so much. Last week he came back for more. It's the Birdman himself rocking the sweater, Kyle Condor. And in the middle, it's Will Gaucher making his big hit debut. Save this footage, ladies and gentlemen. But guys, let's get right into it. It was an ugly weekend in college basketball for one man in particular, and his name is Marcus Smart. He got into an altercation with a fan, a Texas Tech fan named Jeff Orr. He was suspended from that game. Oklahoma State lost that game as well. They've lost a few games in a row and are really struggling at this time. Do you think the Big 12 got the suspension right, 3-game suspension? Was it too much or should have changed at all?
Josh, I think they got it right, and I mean you gotta give Marcus Smart credit. He wasn't the only antagonist here. The Texas Tech fan Jeff Orr definitely said something very very bad to him. But Marcus Smart needs to realize that he's the guy on the bigger stage. He's the guy who has the spotlight on him. It's not Jeff Orr who's going to get in trouble for the situation. It's Marcus Smart, and he did just that. He got in trouble. You know, he needs to realize that he's going to hear slick comments like that for the rest of his career when he goes on to the NBA, for the rest of his college career. There's going to be fans like that who say things to him. And even if he's very upset about what's going on in the game, he needs to realize that he needs to keep his composure and just worry about what's going on the court. I have this quote from Richard Sherman. He mentioned right after his little post-game fiasco against the 49ers, he said, "A lion does not concern himself with the opinion of a sheep." I think that's something that Marcus Smart needs to take in consideration, that he's definitely on the bigger stage. He cannot concern himself with what people of the lower standard say to him.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the suspension. The Big 12, they got those 3 games right, and this is why. No matter what a fan says to you during the game, that does not matter. You are the main player for your team. You have to look out for your brothers. And for him to react how he reacted, pushing a fan, shoving fans, going crazy after the game, that was unacceptable. The Big 12 hit the nail on the head right with this decision.
Absolutely, and you have to think that this is going to have a bit of a ripple effect in terms of other fans. Whenever Marcus Smart's on the road, you know fans are not going to hold back, and they're going to try to draw him into something like that. Again, he really needs to keep his composure. Hopefully this will be a learning experience for them. But looking at the Oklahoma State Cowboys, they have 3 tough games without Marcus Smart, and they've lost 4 in a row heading into these 3 tough games. How is the team going to fare without one of their unquestioned leaders on this team?
Oklahoma State is absolutely doomed without Marcus Smart. If they couldn't win with him, they're definitely not going to be able to win without him. They have games coming up against Texas, Oklahoma, and Baylor. 3 teams that aren't great teams, but they're definitely teams that could beat Oklahoma State with or without Marcus Smart. So without him, they're going to have a lot of trouble. They have 7 losses with him. It's not going to get any easier without him. And just so you know, he returns against Texas Tech, which is the team that the fiasco happened against. So that should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, Kyle, Marcus Smart, he's averaging 17.5 points a game, which is leading the team. He is also the leader in assists and steals. Now, I have an interesting stat here, and it's a win share. Marcus Smart is responsible for 3.9% of all wins that Oklahoma State has won. It was very crucial to lose Smart during this 4-game skid because now they lost basically all hope. I do not have them getting out of this very well. It's going to be tough for Oklahoma State to rebound from the loss of their star player.
Yeah, for sure. 4 straight losses, losing your best player for 3 more games. Their tournament hopes maybe disappearing before our very eyes. But a lot of issue came about when he came back to school. A lot of people said he wanted to work on his maturity, only a 19-year-old kid. How do you think this affects his draft stock for the upcoming draft? He still would have to be considered a lottery pick, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to be a lottery pick. I don't think it's the Jeff Orr incident alone that's going to affect his draft stock, but I think it's the entire returning season in general. He had the chance to join the NBA after his freshman season last year, but he decided to come back, as we all know. I mean, hopefully the NBA teams will take this as a learning experience, that Marcus Smart will come back from this and be a better man, that this is the one time and only time that something like this will ever happen. But, you know, he came back for his sophomore season because he recognized his team's potential with him, LeBron Nash, Markel Brown. His points per game and shooting percentage went up, but the team just hasn't lived up to the hype as a whole. When you come back for your sophomore season and know you're going to be the superstar, what NBA scouts are looking for is to see that you could be a leader. And Marcus Smart has not proved leadership to this point, and he's definitely going to have to do that before he joins the NBA. And from what we've seen so far, he might even have to come back for another year of college basketball to prove himself.
Yeah, Marcus Smart, he came back to school this year, his sophomore year, to improve his three-point shooting. That has not happened. He has actually dropped. 28.1% from three-point shooting is not going to get it done, not to the NBA scouts, not to any GMs. His assist-to-turnover ratio is 1.59. That is absolutely abysmal, okay? GMs are going to crisp this man and grill him in any interview that he goes through. Not only because of the situation in Lubbock, but he has also been known somewhat to show his frustration out on the court when he really should not. And it's going to be a nice learning lesson for him, but I'm not sure that his draft stock is going to take that much of a hit, but I think it will be significant enough that, you know, yeah.
Yeah. His draft stock probably will at least be damaged in the eyes of some. But hopefully Marcus Smart will be able to learn from this incident. Hopefully he will become more mature, become more of a man after this, because no matter what he does on the court, if he can't control his emotions or anything, he's not going to make it in the NBA. But let's talk about a team a little closer to home, guys. The Pitt Panthers played Virginia Tech on Saturday and held on by the skin of their nose, so to speak. A double overtime win at the Peterson Event Center, a place they really play well, but they didn't play well against the bottom feeder in the ACC. Still ranked after that win to Virginia Tech. Do you think they deserve to be in the top 25, Kyle?
Oh, I don't even think the least bit they deserve to be in the top 25. And that's they do only have 4 losses. They have 20 wins, but none of those wins have come against notable opponents. Not one of them was ranked. They only averaged 73.3 points per game this season. That's 130th in the nation. They're a very one-dimensional team, and with just having Lamar Patterson on their back. They haven't, they struggled at home versus Miami or versus Virginia Tech. They struggled at Miami. That's 2 of the worst teams in the ACC. I don't think this team deserves a top 25 ranking at all.
Kyle, my man, again, we agree. There's no way that the Pitt Panthers should be in the top 25. They have played the likes of Albany, Youngstown State, Cal Poly, and that's just to name a few of the teams that they've played. They struggled versus a Miami team. They're 12-12, and that was at Miami. They won them overtime by 4. Like Kyle had said, they played the bottom feeder of the ACC, Virginia Tech. And second overtime, they only won by 5 at home, where they are 13-2 this year. Their record versus the top 50, they're only 1-4. So, just like you had said, Kyle, there's no way that this should be a top 25 team.
Yeah, for sure. And their main guy, their main playmaker, Lamar Patterson, struggling to say the least, really not scoring at the rate that he has before. So Pitt is in bad shape, and looking forward, they have quite a test as the #1 ranked Syracuse Orange come into the Peterson Event Center. That's one of 2 big-time rivalries that are taking place this Wednesday. Syracuse and Pitt, of course, and Duke and North Carolina also play. I'm going to ask you right now, which of the 2 rivalries is the most intriguing matchup, and which team of the 4 has the most to prove?
I'm definitely going to have to say that Pitt-Syracuse is the most intriguing matchup of the 2 this Wednesday. I understand that Duke and UNC have great history. It's one of the best rivalries in sports of all time, but not this year. The Pitt-Syracuse game is a test for both teams. If Syracuse loses, it's going to shake everything up. We might even see Wichita State as the #1 team in the nation. That would stir up all college basketball fans. If it's a chance for Pitt to silence the haters like me and Will, who think that they haven't beaten anyone. It's a chance for them to prove themselves. And also, Pitt visited Syracuse on January 18th. That's their first time they met this season. And Pitt only lost by 5 to Syracuse, who's an undefeated team. I think that game, just this Wednesday, is bigger, on a bigger stage in terms of college basketball this season than Duke-UNC is.
I have to disagree with you, Kyle. Duke-UNC, that game just speaks for itself. The rivalry, the players that have come through. It's at the Dean Dome. You know that place is going to be rocking tomorrow. This rivalry is up there with Red Sox, Yankees, Ohio State, Michigan, Steelers, Ravens. Nothing gets better than Duke, North Carolina, especially during rivalry week. But I will have to agree with Kyle that Pitt does have the most to prove. Like previously stated, they're 1-4 versus top 50. They are 13-2 at home, though. That is a bright spot to look at. They're only 2.5 games back in the ACC, so with this win, if they could pull it out Wednesday versus Syracuse, the #1 team in the nation, that could really give them a boost into the tournament or into conference.
Will, you said that Duke-UNC is a bigger matchup on Wednesday. Let me put this into perspective for you a little bit. I understand that there's been some great matchups in the past. 2 years ago we had Austin Rivers hitting a shot at the buzzer that shook up a lot of things in the rankings. But this year it really doesn't matter. Duke and UNC combined have 12 losses. Pitt and Syracuse only have 4. UNC isn't even ranked this year, and once again, we might see them as a top team in the NIT tournament, not the March Madness tournament. So that's why this Wednesday, that game means absolutely nothing other than to the students of Duke and UNC, who are obviously very into this game.
Yeah, certainly a lot of history in both of these rivalries. Pitt can really get that statement win, only lost by 5, to reiterate your point. That's all the time we have here. Crashing the boards college basketball for Kyle Condor, the Birdman himself, and Will Gaucher. Stay tuned because we are going to have the Crimson Huddle when we return after this break. And welcome back into the Big Hit. It's the only sports talk show that really matters right here on IUP-TV. It's time for the Crimson Huddle and a good cast of characters joining the show here. We're very limited on time, guys. The half-hour format this week, it's definitely to our detriment. But Mike Gosnell and Malusi Kitchen joining us here. Guys, Goose, what do you say you recap the women's game from Saturday against Seton Hill?
Well, it was a fantastic game for one Ashley Stoner, 11 of 11, 22 points. She basically did it all for the Crimson Hawks. They had 2 other players in double figures in Leslie Stapleton and Talon Watson. But really, this is the type of game that the Crimson Hawks need, especially coming up against California, who is coming off a huge victory over the Edinburgh Fighting Scots, the #1 team in the PSAC West, and of course hosting Gannon here Saturday. But overall, it was a complete team effort. Tom McConnell was very pleased in talking to him for what they did over that game. I mean, everything was going right. The baskets were going in. The distribution of the ball was impeccable. They needed this type of game, and it's interesting to see what they can do now against the Cal team, who they lost to a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and Ashley Stoner, career high, 22 points, very good. But the men also played on Saturday, and they also won. Malusi, could you recap that game for us?
Yeah, absolutely. This last game that they had, it was a blowout. It was almost it was a close game. It was 56-54. But this game, they came out raging. Brandon Norfleet, Devontae Chance, Devon Cottrell, they all had big impacts on the game. They definitely, defensively, they had a huge game. They let up 12 points in the first half. That ranks 3rd all-time in IUP history, where I think it was the other points was 11 and the other were 8. So very impressive feat for the IUP Crimson Hawks. But definitely it's a good win moving forward. They have California coming up tomorrow, so that's going to be a tough test for them as well. And then Gannon after that. So I like to see them build momentum off this win, and especially going forward.
Yeah, and Brandon Norfleet has led the team in scoring for the past 3 games. He's really started to come into his own, and just another threat for this IUP Crimson Hawks team looking to make a deep tournament run. But you guys had mentioned, Cal, you will both be there calling the games tomorrow against Cal, and then also Gannon. Give me a quick preview of those games. What do we have to look forward to?
On the women's side, you have to look for more of the same, I'm expecting, because they've been playing so well, and Lindsay Stamp is this much closer to getting into the starting lineup. They're going to play bench deep as far as their bench goes. They've been distributing the ball very well, and I look for more of the same with Cal, but Gannon's going to present a whole different animal and a whole different set of challenges for this team. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of game plan Tom McConnell has developed for the Vulcans and the Golden Knights.
Yeah, absolutely. For the men's side, I expect to see more of the same. Brandon Norfleet needs to continue playing the way he's playing. Devontae Chance, he's making smart passes. He doesn't need to score a lot, but when he does score, it's opportunistic. So when you see him, score, it's very helpful because, like I said before, the offense can become stagnant. And when Matisse and Marcel and Devon Cottrell, Jesse Bosnick, when all those guys come in and chip in, they're a really tough team to defeat. And it's a good thing that Brandon Norfleet is showing why he was a PSAC freshman of the week, with his scoring and his development as a player. So I expect to see more of the same against Cal.
Yeah, should be a tremendous week of basketball for both Crimson Hawks teams. And this Saturday, of course, a big game against Gannon. You guys will both have the call also on Wednesday on 90.1. You can watch it this Saturday on the Crimson Hawks Sports Network and listen as well. We just ran the no huddle a little bit, and how appropriate, because coming up next, Shaun P. McCarthy has the 2-minute drill. Stay tuned.
Hello world, and welcome back to The Big Hit. This is a 2-minute drill, and I, as always, am Shaun P. McCarthy. For the 11th straight year, LeBron James will be not competing in the slam dunk contest during this year's All-Star break. But that did not stop LeBron from making videos of him doing ridiculous backyard dunks during practice. Is it me, or does it seem like he's taunting us? I mean, why would the best basketball player in the world, and probably the best dunker, hold out on us yet again? Easy answer. He smells the fear. And the fear is quite pungent. It's a formidable scent that stings the nostrils. I'm going to be honest, it smells like pure gasoline. You see, LeBron James doesn't want any part of any slam dunk contest because he thinks if he loses, it will hurt his legacy and he'll be thought of less as a player. That's simply not true because the dunk contest is just for fun. No stats are actually recorded because there are no stats. LeBron fears if he loses the dunk contest to some second-rate, second-year player, that people may believe that that player is better than him. Michael Jordan still competed in a few dunk contests against other Hall of Fame players, and he wasn't afraid of losing. Jordan hated losing, but he was never afraid to lose. Those Jordan versus Wilkins dunk contests were legend, wait for it, dairy. And everyone enjoyed them because it was the best dunkers competing in a dunk contest. In my eyes, it's not a true dunk contest unless the best participant is in it. It's like Team Canada leaving Sidney Crosby off their Olympic roster. Team Canada is not the best Team Canada without Crosby, just like the NBA dunk contest is not the best dunk contest without LeBron James. And breaking news from Sochi, the men's and women's Olympic curling teams are very, very bad. I can't believe such a popular sport in America can do so poorly in the Olympics. Maybe they're used to the bigger stage in the United States. I know there's curling tournaments in Duluth, Minnesota can draw quite the crowd. I guess Americans are not, in fact, the best curlers in the world. Who knew? And backed by popular demand, it's the Churlish Player of the Week award. This week's Churlish Player goes to Marcus Smart of the Oklahoma State Cowboys. In the final moments of the game, Marcus shoved an elderly Texas Tech fan. Smart has been suspended for 3 games for doing his best run-on test impersonation. He was not ejected from the game, but was given a technical foul. Marcus Smart, you can't be going 3 rows deep into the crowd and shoving senior citizens. You, sir, are churlish. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today here at The Big Hit. For Director Danielle Eberly and producers Dan Wallace and Dimitri George, I'm Shaun P. McCarthy. Don't be churlish. Keep it fresh.